Hello, and welcome to another episode of my Stellaris Let's Play. This is Northstar. I hope you folks are well, taking care of each other, and being kind to yourself. Apologize, there's background noise here. I don't think that the mic is picking up on it. Some jackass with a leaf blower, and on top of, or weed whacker, and on top of that, sure, periodically. I spent a little time doing some bug reports. Just a couple of the smallest bugs I noticed here. Well, one that might be a bug I tested. Had to briefly copy the save and did a console command to test this, because I thought it was a bug and I wanted to confirm it was. God, that noise is gonna drive me. I hate weed whackers. These things should be banned, or at least you should have to use electric ones, which are massively quieter. Yeah, whatever. Nobody cares about noise pollution. Unfortunately, just like light pollution, it's a problem of, oh, it's violating my liberty to require me to take steps to mitigate it. Hate that. So two bugs. One, or two possible bugs. One, monuments don't help squires at all. I tested that. That's definitely the case. Two, I had to copy the save console over, which I didn't even know how to do it because I never used console commands over some minerals, instant build a monument on Anchor versus Hesset Prime and compare. Civilians do receive autokin monuments bonuses. Squires don't. That's kind of bug or unintended balance change because previously you get culture worker jobs. They provide ethics-based modifiers to all your pops, not just civilians or squires. All of them would get somewhat smaller bonuses, but they get bonuses. And culture workers were uni workers, so they had some value themselves. Now a monument provides no bonuses to any pops whatsoever on Anchor, on the order habitat, because squires don't receive the larger bonuses that are given to civilians, and you can't have civilians on your order habitat, and you get no culture workers. So there's no value except for the passive uni from the monument, which is a very small amount, and a small multiplier, which is added with other ones, so it's not that much to innate uni output. And given how you can't add that many knights until orbitals, maybe when you have a ton of orbitals and a lot of orders dimensions, it might be worth having a monument. But until then, it's not. You're just better with more strongholds. Or maybe if you're really limited for pop numbers, I guess, which I am somewhat limited. So there's that. The other thing is this. You can see it's at 54%. I fixed it. Or rather, I did a bug report. Someone suggested a single line change to the code. Because, I kid you not, is sapient was not being checked for when deciding whether a pop was in a stratified society or not. Whether it would invalidate this. Because you have to have all your pops in a stratified society, academic privilege, or the dystopian living standard that you get if you're an oppressive dystopia. Which you're locked into in that case. And the civic as well, if I'm not mistaken. Stratified society, though, was being invalidated by having pre-sapients who cannot have living standards. So this was making the authoritarians 54% happy instead of it should be 84 now once it figures it out. That I tried that change and I made a backup copy of the file I changed and changed that, and it did. It fixed the issue. So it was just that the game, and it used to check for it before. So it's not like I did something that wasn't. It used to check if the pops were sapient or not. Sentient is what sapient. I forget what the line, but it checked if a pop was sentient. And then somehow, when Paradox went and messed with stuff again, they removed that check, and as a result, you were getting non-sapient pops, preventing Stratified Economy from working. So you would have to either purge pre-sapients, which you can't do under Genesis guides, or have a living standard for them, which you can't do because they're not eligible. It was ridiculous, and it was screwing me, and it shouldn't have been screwing me. So that's changed. That's fixed. Because you can look. You can always set policy. Until you uplift them, you cannot set any living standard. It says rights protected. Though still always simple animals, these beings no less than we ourselves once were. We should ensure their preservation. Pre-sapients cannot be selectively purged, and plants contain pre-sapients cannot be terraforming in zoos. Maybe construct on plants of pre-sapients, but I'm locked out of that due to Genesis guides. You can go Genesis guides for all and then swap out of it. Protect and create zoos at that point. Change away from this policy. Remove any alien zoos and plants without an isolated value deposit or any livestock present. God, now there's assholes make even more. I swear, like it's someone's on a freaking megaphone. Ugh, these people. Quantum Soul. All right, I've heard that before, you guys, but it's not a bad one if I remember. I know about the consumer goods shortage. I'm not going to be able to do anything about the asteroid. Ah. Darn it. I wasn't trying to adjust the angle. I was trying to close this. And the idle leader is my head of research, who's not really idle, just not currently in charge of the science ship. Because I got this guy roaming out here. I suppose and I'm trying to level up this scientist so he's serving in Medgar. Let's see what he gets when he reaches level 3. The useless scientist got eaten by a chitoid. I regret the loss of the science ship more than the scientist, but I was also looking the stuff with traditions, empire size, how that works, and I can confirm after having looked it up that you can't really with the empire size growth scaling. There's no way to really get unlimited number of pops. You'll see exponentially decreasing growth until you're producing pretty much nothing. And with the way they've gotten rid of pop assembly, you can't grow pops basically anymore once a pop reaches its planet reaches its capacity, which because it's bugged still doesn't allow you to fit in more pops if they have housing reducing traits. It should, but it doesn't. It doesn't work the way the tools tip says, but people misunderstand this. But this has been tested by players over and over, and Paradox still hasn't fixed it. Yeah, I reported the issue with the is sapient thing and the stuff about squires. It's now June. We'll see if by the time this goes live in like August, if Paradox has fixed either issue. I doubt it. They don't fix stuff far too often for a very long time. Maybe I'll get trolled by some dev if they don't like something political I happen to say around my game. But I doubt they'll ever do anything about the bugs I mentioned here. And, well, probably not. I mean, Paradox is based in Sweden, which is a more left-wing country. The population, maybe some of their executives are right-wing and part of the slow destruction of social democracy in Sweden. But most of their devs are probably more politically aligned with me than against me in many ways, although I'm probably to the left of them quite a bit still. Available housing 5642, but yeah, wait, that's housing, not here. Anyways, planet capacity as determined by housing and additional space from undeveloped districts. Pops grow fastest mid capacity, but face penalties as the planet nears its limit. And in fact, when the planet reaches its capacity, all growth stops. You may be able to grow to overcrowding if you have to the point of overcrowding if you have undeveloped districts, but you can never grow beyond planet size capacity any substantial amount. Growth slows to 0.1 pops a month. It floors there, so it doesn't actually ever go negative anymore, which I guess gets rid of pop assembly being gone. But that's a pitiful rate of growth. And with empire growth scaling, then you get a multiplicative hunt. I could have turned that off at Galaxy Generation because it still isn't a system. It would have, I guess, made for slightly faster gameplay and created more an incentive to grow wide. And people are like, oh, tall versus wide. And they love growing tall. It's just because they don't want to micro stuff. Honestly, they should, one, get more comfortable with when they have a large empire handing off stuff to AIs, and two, vassals and federations. You can only have so many vassals, and if they're too large or out to you, they're hard to keep loyal, but you can have federation as large as you want, conquer the galaxy that way, including having former vassals in your fed so they'll match your ethics and civics even, and tradition trees precisely. But yeah, I was looking at stuff with empire size from pops because that's very important. If you can only get so many pops, you can't just outgrow. Although stuff that where your population will kind of plateau out and stop growing for most effects and purposes is affected by pop growth. Bonuses like more clone vats in your population will plateau out at a larger number because of multiple stuff. So you'd have to reach twice the pops for the empire size growth scaling to reduce your growth the same amount. Anyways, so discovery, prosperity, mercantile, harmony. Those are the economic things. Unyielding. I'll actually be doing unyielding as the next one. Mutation from biogenesis. And that leaves me with one other. Which I had been thinking, and I think domination because it gives minus 10% empire size from pops. Very late game, especially if you have Economic Monopoly, that save planets, empire size from pops will be your main source of pops, and so it was either going to be statecraft or minus 5% total empire size, or it was going to be domination for the empire size and pops, which will eventually get a really massive number of pops. I suppose statecraft, if I'm going to reform to Megcore eventually with all the branch office empire size, is not. I think there's 1,000 stars, so that'd be 2,000 empire size. It's close. Statecraft isn't much worse. Domination also reduces slave political power. If I ever decide, I'm going to go evil xenophobe and have livestock pops, which is particularly incentivized with the mutation tradition because I can think of pops delicious and spare organs, and spare organs gives extra trade value when with the advanced mutation authority. And advanced authority for that gives happiness and uni. I did eye the cloning, but you don't get advanced species traits. You don't get nucleotide isolation traits, which are the orbital speed demon ones, basically. And how am I? I've been talking for a while here. I should probably get going. On like actually in pauseness. And you can't add negative traits under cloning. It doesn't have a lot of the features that genetic ascension used to have. You need to go mutation subpath for that. So even though the cloning advanced authorities are often somewhat more powerful, it just doesn't quite add up. Like you get a lot more trade value from pops, but which is seriously useful, but the lack of advanced traits is probably tiebreaker away from it. Also, I was considering the Knights of Toxic God Origin is I always think it's useless, but there is one thing that's really useful. The Nightly Fairgrounds has apparently been buffed to the point it's a really powerful holding now. So if I become Meghorn and have this origin, whereas if I do stuff with taking Cosmogenesis, then spin off a vassal and defeating myself before I can destroy 9% of the stars in the galaxy by doing the the needle into the center of the galaxy or a black hole. The whole, yeah, winning. If I do that cheese, I won't have the origin anymore. At best, I could switch to a Void Dweller origin empire. And so I wouldn't have Nightly Fairgrounds anymore. I'd have to make do with other holdings. Of course, then I wouldn't be locked into Voidborn Ascension perk. I could take something else instead, and I would have gotten most of the benefits of Cosmogenesis and tech, including Fall Empire techs, and so I get 2 Ascension perks instead, which might be better. I'd have to think about it and see how the game goes if I ever get to that late game point. Oh yeah, one last thing. I'm desperately tight on consumer goods here. Give me a second. Sorry about that. I've thought about how I'm going to handle this, and I've come to the conclusion I have no choice but to switch off militarized economy for now. In the long run, I'm going to be to commit ourselves fully to either war pieces or set ourselves to a narrow view. Must be ready for whatever the future may hold. I mean, a lot of alloy stuff is actually useful, civilian-wise, but I'm going to need consumer goods for colony ships. So I thought about putting a civilian industries here in Issa Prime. Problem with that is I don't have any pops to work the jobs. I actually need the miners. I don't have the energy to resettle pops there soon. I need the squires here. Minis are desperately tight. And while I'll eventually be able to resell these civilians from Hesek Prime, I don't have the energy. And once I do, won't be that many extra artisans I could run in here. What I can do later on is throw down some mixed industry here. As opposed to, it's essentially 400 less housing if I was, say, doing urban expansion per district in exchange for 100 jobs. But if I was, say, to add a building like an alloy forge, 200 jobs for giving up luxury housing that provides, well, essentially using the old system 15 housing versus 4 costs. So yeah, the specializations, the industry ones, the most give up the least housing for a certain number of industrial jobs. And of course, this world's where I produce a lot of minerals, so it's the best place to be producing alloys and consumer goods if I'm not just totally specializing in mineral production, which I can't do yet because I only have 3 plants. I can't hyper specialize that much yet. Then you can specialize whole sectors. If you have a real wide empire, it still won't make up for, you're better off balkanizing your empire. That helps, and having lots of vassals and federation members, that helps get around penalties of going wide. And yeah, if you're in a federation, I wish I could respec this away from mixed industry. Oh, I can, right? No, that's replace district. Oh, I can specialize the capital in heavy industry, which will be especially important now that I'm no longer running militarized economy. Yeah, so at some point I may need to respec this into heavy industry. And this into civilian industry. Or, yeah. Here are assembly lines turn ceaselessly, crafting everything from simple tools to marvels of modern design. I could just do this and yeah, it's a lot of minerals, but it might be worth it. Some people have complained that archives provide, quote, fewer jobs than mixing research districts and bureaucrat. They're wrong. You get 100 jobs here. You get 100 jobs here. You get 100 jobs here. They're all the same. It's just how focused you want things. And if you're spiritualist, having priests around can provide your minis, so you don't need to run pure minis jobs. So it's later that specialization was worthwhile. That's, yeah. Part of why I'm going to do archives here is because I need amenities. Oh yeah. Last but not least, before I pause here, and really this is the end of it. I gotta stop suppressing militarism. The reason why. Why wouldn't it? You know, there used to be a little pie chart that showed the ethos of your population. That was very, very, very useful. But basically, the vast majority of pops on Anchor are militarists. I mean, the vast majority. And because they removed this user interface thing that showed that easily, it's not immediately obvious that that was causing me problems. As I said before, the UI needs to be upgraded in 4.0. They removed a lot of things that used to be easy to find, and there's new things that need to be listed. Okay, so I should be, once the month ticks over, I should be fine with consumer goods. Higher stability and Anchor. Might take a sec. But popper pool rating should be higher now. With, that guy's authoritarian. It was the knights that were all militarists. I mean, almost all. 810 of the knights. That was what was causing issues. That more than half my specialists. Guess it's a little less bad now with, the artisans. As I have more specialists who aren't knights, I should get more non-militarist pops. Forcers are all militarists too. I suppose there's probably a thing where militarists are more likely to take those jobs, although over time they might retype as other ethos, assuming there's allowed to ethics drift off of it in those jobs and they don't become unemployed. So rapid expansion of your police forces or military leads to a ton of, well, military not so much, but you add a ton of forcers, your militarists will gain a lot of power, but over time they'll lose it. There's some kind of social commentary there about reforms and stuff against aggressive, dictatorial, almost policing. I don't know. Of course, in our own world, we have to have veterans become police officers, and that's helps ensure that they're all militarists. It's a problem. That's social commentary. Powered exoskeletons. Oh yeah, just the thing I didn't do a bug report on, I probably should, is this automation building. Upkeep. Base. Wait, 200? It said less be 22 districts. 25 would be 200 if it was automating them all, but it definitely said a lot smaller number before. Okay, I think this must be the upkeep for automating every single one of my districts. In which case it might be useful, like I said, but it's still a massive investment. 540. Well, it's not that massive, but it's also not profitable at my current tech level for most jobs. Mostly because it costs energy, which is something I have trouble producing as knights. People are like, oh, you can't equate to energy. Yes, you can. You have to figure out how hard it is to produce additional energy to support the machinery. For me, versus a base of 48, I'm getting 62. So I'm getting a little more than 7.2 energy per 100. let's see, 48 times 800. Yeah, this would be like 6 energy per pop in the old system, and then you add 25% and you get, yeah, no, sorry, a little more than 7.5 energy per 100 technicians. So, to give you an example, to automate those 4 generator districts would cost 32 energy. It would effectively give me, if it allowed me to, you know, run more technicians, which again I don't have to, so I'd have to work. Yeah, it would free up 200 pops, and I would need to run additional technicians just to pay the upkeep. 200 technicians will give me about 15 energy. Well, I'd pay 32 for the automation. Right. 32. Yeah, I can get 200. Each 100 is... Yep, that's correct. So, right now the cost is about twice the benefit. Twice. If job efficiency were higher, it could be a little bit different, because then it'd be easier to pay the upkeep, but still free up 200 pops, could work as additional technicians. People think of the most, like, well, you can work a given number of districts with your, yeah, but then you have to pay the upkeep on the thing. So how many technicians does it take to pay the upkeep? It takes more than the amount of labor it frees up. That's what it boils down to in the end. Now, once I got a specialization here, an energy generator one, this would increase the number of, this would effectively give me 300 labor, which is getting closer. Then 22.5 energy for the amount of labor freed up. Still not equal, but then buildings also within the district get automated. So with some buildings, I get even closer. And then the thing that would push it over the edge is enough technology that buffs technician output. Once it frees up more labor and the cost to maintain it, then it's worthwhile. And the powered exoskeletons will actually help me get to that point. So I will want automation at some point. It's not, people say it's never worth it, are wrong. It's just not worth it yet. This feels fast. It's definitely my long COVID, my sense of time being off. That's why I was talking for so long, and some days I had to deal with relative breaking their hip, and my family member sitting with stressing the hell out over that. And it's like trying to basically do something that would prevent, or running off to go visit them would prevent going to a family reunion thing that was going to happen in vacation. This particular relative is elderly, so they're not really there mentally anymore. Dementia type stuff, number one. But number two, it wasn't like a major thing there. It's not like there's anything, the person's life is in danger. And unfortunately, old people fall and they break their hips a lot, and they're gonna get swarmed with calls and probably too many visitors already. It's not, being there is not necessarily helpful, is what I'm trying to get at. And this particular person, relative I'm staying with, really just wants to visit for them instead of for supporting the person. You know, if you're visiting someone, it ought to be... Really? I stopped suppressing the military, and I switched off of militarized economy. I'm still running a slight deficit of consumer goods. Keyword is slight. Although adding a night job here will add to consumer goods upkeep a little. Oh yeah. One other thing worth noting. The most cost-effective way in terms of pops to provide the amenities needed here was the luxury housing. So that first one paid for itself very easily. this is about pop growth, because I'm starting to get to enough pops that it's only 0.1 from pops right now. That'll increase. When I clear the toxic kelp, it'll increase further. But yeah, trying to think long term. And I really need. But yeah, I mean, the other thing is, unfortunately, you can't be completely altruistic. I've spent too much of my life like completely putting other people's needs before myself, and this is sometimes encouraged by having narcissistic parents who always want to be put first, and I'm not a narcissist myself. They kind of train people around them to do that, especially, you know, their kids. My brother does not even talk to my parents really hardly when he can avoid it because of this. My perspective is different, trying to live in peace with people, but yeah, with my long COVID, it's extremely stressful. I basically cannot keep my mental health if I don't have at least one way to unwind once a year, which is this family reunion thing, vacation. The only one I can do, and only that because I don't have to pay for it, just get there, because being disabled with long COVID, and there's still, even then, there's traveling and some hotel expenses split with a family member to get there, to drive there, because it's cheaper than flying. Not much, but it is. Yeah, I mean, I have to survive first and foremost, and this is exceedingly stressful situation made infinitely worse by a society that doesn't give a damn about the disabled. In fact, when I talk about long COVID or being disabled, most people either don't react, like at all, like act like it's non-thing, which is basically erasing it, or they'll like gaslight me about refusing to accept that's a thing. Like, there's no such thing as long COVID. Like, some people, usually right-wingers, think it's like, yes, it is. It's verified. There's freaking physicians who suddenly stopped being physicians because they got sick with this. Do you think some of the hardest working people in the world, especially some of my top tier surgeons and stuff, just suddenly stopped doing that because they got a virus once? Like, if you don't think there's such thing as long permanent health effects from that virus, which is what long COVID is, it's you get a COVID infection and then afterwards your health is ruined for the rest of your life. At least unless substantial investment is made in finding out why these health effects are occurring and figuring out how to treat and cure them. Because that can be done. Like, it just requires more advanced medical technology than we have, and well, we don't live in a material society. People think we do. Oh, people like consumer goods. That's not what materialism is. Materialism has to do with perspective towards science. Even this game, materialism is about science output. It's not about high living standards. In fact, if anything, egalitarianism would tend more in that direction, that ordinary people deserve high living standards, or maybe authoritarianism, that the rich deserve high living standards. But those are the ethos that have to do with living standards. Materialism is about science and how you analyze the world. For instance, you will see Marxists call themselves dialectical materialists, for instance, which is a subset of materialist philosophy. when they talk about that, they're referring to how they analyze history. Not so much the sciences, at least not the hard sciences. It's a social science perspective. Unfortunately, not many of them are trained in social science, and so they don't really apply this as rigorously as they should. But you do have Marxist philosophers and sociologists who do apply these criteria more rigorously. But that's what it is. It's a philosophy and a way of analyzing the world, as opposed to idealism, which is a different way of analyzing the world. Let's see, I just produced this science ship. I don't remember where I was going to send it. Give me a second. Yes. Sorry, I did think for a second to make sure I wasn't missing something. I thought it was this. So, what I was going to do is get this last asteroid, which hopefully isn't a Shatoid, but it could be one in disguise. Then visit this star system. Then, I guess I can, well, it'll just make it too much. Then probably go up here to Liaison. Finish surveying this system, which the Astrolift Scar is the only thing that hasn't been surveyed. I think I wanted to delay whatever comes out of that. And then there's Anomaly. All this is spontaneous explosions. Very low yield compared to some other things, which is why I'm only doing now with this new science ship. And as this guy levels up, I'll probably swap him. Or yeah, maybe. There's always danger with the science ships. This one's in danger of being attacked by this hostile alien group, abducted or something. And this one could always come across a Leviathan. Or hyperdrive into a bunch of hostile space amoebas or crystalline entities or void clouds or something like it near the hyperlane entry point. Anyways, making frame class corvettes to keep up my naval power projection, which I'm getting close to the cap. And eventually I'll just have to stop keeping up with it. But taking Imperial and Authoritarian give me, plus power projection, give me enough influence that I don't need to max it later, which is good because I can't afford to max it forever as the Knights with my debuff to alloy production and energy production. And having like, yeah, job efficiency does affect squires, by the way. Civilians too. Show, there's no, like, it's neutral. Well, it might affect civilians. I don't know. I don't know how the mutation stuff to job efficiency might work, and I think the pop housing usage reduction they can get, mutation doesn't work for sure, and that you're not going to be able to cram more pops in a planet just because they use less housing each. The pop capacity thing, it's broken. Basically, the devs were trying to make it work one way, and they made it work another.
Knowledge is the key to the universe.
They're trying to make us pop housing usage traits that allow you to have more faster logistic growth on the planet, but it didn't work at all because they added the what it essentially happened, I can show you with the planet, as I understand it, is this capacity thing, right? Well, the capacity, the internal, the real capacity, adds pops and free number of pops and free housing. So it just grow to a number of pops is a certain amount when the free housing is 0. Or it was supposed to add a number of pops and free housing, but in order to make it include the housing traits, somebody made it real pop housing usage and free housing, which is totally the wrong thing because it makes the real the capacity that's used under hood go up with housing usage traits and down with housing decrease traits that term, and then the free housing is of course goes down with high housing, so that it ends up always being the same number. So it worked fine, and then it was broken when 3.1 came out in an effort to fix something that wasn't broken by a dev who clearly didn't understand their own code. Anyways, wearing a powered exoskeleton still augments user strength and speed. Or Sue augments user strength and speed. The military applications are obvious, but will also increase labor efficiency. Yep. I do. More mining station output, or the ability to construct materials workshops. Sure, nice for buffing engineers. Carry operations, improve Corvette holes. Well, those are all high yield things. Early engineering techs are often very useful. I mean, replacing a temple with a materials thing. Should probably also, now that I know I just have to hit this button, should replace the archives with where is it? Could do any of these things, but research enclave, or even a society research specialization, because I'm trying to do, well, more priests on Anchor, more of what, and make that my Unity focused area. But the Knights taking Unity upgrades, and if I go really have in Uni, Eventual Monument can be worthwhile when I have a ton of Knights. Probably second specialization here, and some extra orbitals to add district slots. So the plant size is always 6, but if it's like 12 or 15, Monument can still be worth it just as a Uni multiplier, even if it does nothing else. If I've taken a lot of Uni buffs, so Knights mostly produce Uni. Anyways, engineering is good, but I'm trying like hell to... So I'm not even having enough food for this. I am trying like heck to get enough society research to uplift and to take epigenetic triggers soon. Alright. Yeah, I should just do mining station output. The materials workshop will roll again later. But right now, I don't produce enough of anything. My surpluses are tiny. Minerals are barely keep up with the rate of development. Energy will keep going down as I add more buildings and infrastructure. So it's okay to stockpile a little, and food will soon be in the negative if I add the clone vats I need. Meaning I'll have to add more ag districts, and I don't have the labor to work them without reselling pops, which is part why I need the energy. Probably want a ag district, provide a little bit of the food that Essence Prime needs, and get access to these build slots. And a generator district, for the same reason. Eventually, but place where that might not be worthwhile is the tiny number of district slots on Anchor. Probably don't necessarily want a reactor or Astro Mining Bay until I've had more district slots, and eventually I'll want those things for greater self-sufficiency. But the research district helps provide desperately needed amenities. So, yep. Stronghold will add to the number of knights. 100 knight jobs. Having already filled up the orders hall. Eventually I'll want to replace this with a stronghold, but way down the line. Can only do so much Unity, and I really needed consumer goods. One of the better places to put it was where there was a big deficit. And there was free labor available. There's no labor I can retype to make consumer goods here. Other than taking pops off mining duty. Which yeah, not worth it. This is also dumb. People think this is great. I think they were thinking stuff like this. You want to add jobs, not Still want to specialize plants in mining and have lots of mining districts. You don't need that many. It's a late game thing for when you run out of places that are good to specialize. And then you can kind of get a second rate specialization, costs more energy upkeep. Anyways. Pop growth, or pop growth. Yeah, I might have the energy now to send a few people. Synth. At the pop growth mainly. Not really. And it's actually anchor that. So yeah, probably turn 2 mines into generators eventually on the capital. Maybe city districts, because I do need the all the metallurgists and artisans. Right, glancing hit. I'm sure that gives some scaling science, and I don't want to even pause to read that off right now, so let's keep it going.